There we are. We're effectively on. Marisa Fong, thank you so much for coming on the Luke Farr Show, a show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. Thank you very much for sparing your time today.
Oh, love it. Love being here. So good. I love the preamble too. As you say,
Yeah,
we'll
100%.
record it.
There was a lot of good value in that preamble. See, I was complimenting your top and you were complimenting my jacket. Actually, no, that's not the truth. You just said, "Hey, look, love the jacket," but yeah, no, very good. And I'm going to enjoy this conversation with you today. You've obviously been on many podcasts, which you talked about earlier. So yeah, we'll get stuck in. I guess always for the audience out there, they're sitting there watching and they just are simply saying right now, "Who is Marisa Fong?" So always great to do a little bio there. So, I mean, tracking way back when, I mean, you were born in Auckland. Please do jump in here if any of this is incorrect.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah. I'm sure you know yourself better than I do. But anyway, so born in Auckland, the parents originally from Hong Kong. You're the eldest of five, and starting at a very young age in hospitality as your parents ran restaurants, and then into running your own cocktail bar at one point. Then fast tracking into 1998, you co-founded Madison Recruitment with Wynnis Armour. Over roughly a decade, you grew that into New Zealand's largest privately owned recruitment firm. And then in 2013, Madison was acquired by AWF in a landmark eight-figure deal, $36 million. Correct me if I've got that figure wrong. However, that is absolutely
Went up
phenomenal.
after the 1 year earn out.
Oh, very good.
We got a little bit extra on top. Yoo-hoo!
Should we just wrap it up to 40 mil? Should we?
Yeah, just
I
round
like,
it up. Just
I
round it
like,
up.
I like round numbers. Never let the truth
Me
get in the way of
too.
this. Oh, geez. So what do you think shapes your entrepreneurial mindset the most growing up?
Well, definitely my parents, right? And I remember my dad said something to me, and he probably regrets it because they wanted all their children to do the whole university thing, right? So children had to go to university because it's typical migrant story. Be a doctor, a lawyer, or marry a doctor, lawyer, be a teacher, engineer. Teacher was kind of the down here because, but if you couldn't make it as a doctor, do something else. Anyway, but dad and mum were both business people, right? And so I remember probably when I was about 12, and I tell the story that dad must have been filling in a form of some kind, and he asked how to spell entrepreneur because he decided that's what he was. And he must have been, and so we had to look it up in the dictionary. And I was then thinking, oh, this is really interesting, entrepreneur. That was the first time I'd ever heard the word before, right?
Mm,
I think that was the thing because then my father said, when you own your own business, you're in charge of your own destiny. You
mm,
make the decisions. And I thought, yeah, that's really good, really, and that stuck with me. And so, of course, when I didn't go to university and I went off and did travels and played around looking for what my life's career was going to be, uh, they were so upset with me.
mm.
Yeah, so they were the inspiration though. So it was their own fault.
Yeah. Oh, how good. And so were you so like when you sort of look way back then, this whole like how Madison recruitment came into fruition, I mean, was that by happenstance? Did you always have a natural flair for people or sales, or was it more like do you kind of look back and go, sheesh, like I wonder if that moment there didn't happen, which was the catalyst to grow that into what it had become? Is it quite bizarre looking at that? Or do you think that was destiny and it was just meant to be?
I think I worked for other people for a long time until we started Madison, and I'd worked for a big corporate recruitment company. But I think the thing that has always been with me is my ability to sell and my ability to get on with people, anyone, right? And I think I used to, Wynnis and I used to both describe ourselves as being chameleons because we could just shape shift or color shift or whatever to whatever audience we were talking to or whoever we were talking to. And we just had that skill. And I think that was kind of started being, I guess, something that I built as I was working in hospitality with my parents, waitressing and all of that kind
Mm,
of stuff from a young age. But I was telling this other story because I'd always worked since I was like, I think 12, 11, 12, 12 really. Um, if I wasn't working in the home, I was definitely working doing something else. And I just thought I didn't really think about sales being a thing, right? It wasn't and so I tell the story about I worked for this pharmacy 1 hour a day after school. and would get $1 an hour. So it was $5 a week. That tells you how long ago it was. Anyway, and the school holidays.
I've done some quick math.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And it was in the school holidays I used to work longer, right? Because he would have extra work. And he had this, he bought in these, and they were flashing new things, Polaroid cameras, and they were just brand new, you know, the instant camera thing.
Mm,
And he'd obviously bought a couple to sell in the pharmacy, but one was sitting round. And he said to me, and I probably at this stage I was about 14, and he said to me, oh, and he could see that I could sell, right? Because I could sell lots of, I just was a good salesperson. I loved makeup and all the rest of it. So he said to me, oh, I've got this instant Polaroid camera, and it's, you know, see if you can sell it. And if you do, then, you know, I don't know what the incentive was. And I went, oh yeah, okay. I didn't think it was any big deal. And so some random guy came in and I showed it to him and said, have you thought about this? It'd be great for, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then he bought it. And so I think I've just always had that thing of thinking that it was just a normal thing to do. And I must have seen that from my parents or whatever it was. I don't know where I got it from, but anyway, I just had this natural ability. So, but I'd never thought about going into business myself. I just did sales jobs for other people, right? Every part of my, even when I wasn't selling, I was influencing or doing something, right? So the reason we started Madison was, and I tell the story about often people start something not because they're pulled towards it, but maybe they're pushed towards it. And I say that because I was working in this company that was really not a great company culture. I'd been there for 8 years, and I'd gone up to sales director, and it was fine, but the company culture wasn't fantastic. And I remember saying this to my counterpart in Australia and said to him, oh, you know, don't the powers that be see we've got such a high staff turnover? Aren't they worried about that? And he said, and this really put it in perspective, he said, well, you do know that the New Zealand revenue, whole of the New Zealand's revenue is the rounding up of the decimal point for the whole
wow.
global
Oh.
revenue. And I went, ah. So it really made me understand that even though I thought I was doing great things and I was selling really well and winning these big national contracts for the company and all this great stuff, and we always outperformed our budget, but it didn't matter because our significance was so tiny. And that was like, okay, time to go. It was just like a light bulb went on, and I went, why am I busting my butt for a company that doesn't really care, doesn't even know who I am? Like, why? And so that's when Wynnis and I went out and started our own.
Oh, how good, how good. Just tracking back to when you're talking about a little bit about sales there. What do you ultimately think makes a great salesperson?
Oh, you know, I hate those stories when people say, here's a pen and, you know, sell me this pen and all
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of bullshit. You know, like, honestly, I think it is really, there's a thing about confidence, right? There's a thing about mindset and confidence and believing that whatever you're doing or offering is actually really good, right? You know, so, and will be of value to the other party. And if you don't believe that, I mean, there's this sort of, I have this feeling, I have this belief that there's an inauthenticity that comes across, right? When you don't really believe in what you're selling, you're going through a rote process, you know, and you don't really understand what the value of the thing you're going to do for the other party actually really is. Because you can't then ask for the other person, what is the thing that you're struggling with? What is the problem that do we have the solution for you? Is it the right thing to do? And once you understand that, then sales is not selling, it's actually problem solving, providing solutions to people's problems, right? Or pain points. So, like, what is the pain point? And when I understand what that is, and if I'm interested and I'm asking the right questions, then I know whether or not my thing's going to do the thing that it needs for you, right? So I think once we get past this thing of sales being a dirty word, which Kiwis obviously really have a thing about sales, right? We're really terrified of coming across as that person that's going to be, oh no, that person, you know, that's always like just
Snake oil salesman,
snake
yeah.
oil salesman, you know, we all have all that saying, used car salesman and all this kind of thing. So I think if we get over, first have the confidence and self-belief that actually sales is actually a good thing because you're just problem solving for somebody, you know, you're providing solutions. And
Mm,
if you really understand what the other person's pain is and you know how to get to that and ask the right questions, do less talking, more listening, then you'll
mm.
understand whether or not the thing you're doing is the right thing, and then you genuinely, and it's relationship building. And I guess that's the thing I've always loved is I'm really a curious person. You could call it nosy. I mean,
Ah,
I'm
that
quite
was the word I was
nosy.
thinking of, but look, we can frame it however you like, Marissa. Sure. Yeah, let's call it curiosity.
Yeah. But just sometimes just nosy, right? Like I just really like to understand what's going on, what's happening in your business. So when I used to go to companies and they'd be telling me about the job vacancy, but then I'd want to know about their business and what do you do and why does it work and what's the how do you do this and it's just really love learning about their industry and their company. And I think that because that gave me better context, about
Mm.
place and the thing and the person. So yeah, I think just being curious too.
And it builds rapport, doesn't it? I mean, for example, that was the first thing you said. Like once we got on the camera, you were like, "Oh, I've done a little bit of research, but what's your story? What's your background?" And when someone genuinely shows interest in you, like our subconscious goes, "Oh, right, they actually care," and it sort of like it does build that trust and
Yeah,
likability out
yeah,
the gate. Yeah,
yeah. I think
I think
so.
I can resonate with that. I'm definitely quite curious about people. And that certainly helps with running the chat show as well. Because
Yeah.
if you're not curious and didn't really care about them, that would be pretty awful. It would be
It'll be a
pretty awful.
short interview.
Right, that's a wrap, Marissa. Thanks for your time
Yeah,
anyway.
thanks. Yeah.
Oh, very good. But no, I can relate to that. Everything you said about sales, that really resonates with me. Spent a lot of time in sales. I mean, if we were to take 10 of the best salespeople in the world, do you actually personally think that a lot of them were actually born with that natural ability, or have just developed and nurtured that over time and have learned that ability? And or it could
I
be a
don't,
mixture of both. But I've
yeah,
seen salespeople and I go, she's
yeah,
they're just born with that pizzazz. That's a deep genetic thing.
yeah. I think partly it is in terms of being interested in doing it. I mean, I look at introverts and there's an introvert thing and the extrovert thing, and then people say, oh, introverts, it's hard for them to sell and engage. And I go, yeah, that's probably true. But when I see introverts in their zone of genius, they're different people, right? Like when
Mm,
they're doing the thing they love, they're just on fire. That
mm,
might take a lot of energy out of them, but they can do it. So I think there's a combination because um, it can be learnt, but it's got to be something that matters to you, right? Or you care about, or doesn't take
mm,
too much energy out of you. And if you're
mm,
like a deep, deep introvert, having to deal with people all the time might just be really hard.
mm,
So maybe there's something on the introversion extroversion scale that helps as well.
mm.
But you can be a great extrovert and a terrible salesperson, right? You see those people that are extroverts and just do all the talking. So
Yeah.
I think,
Haven't once asked an open-ended question or like figured out the problem. They're just straight into pitching features and benefits. And you sit next to them, you're going, I just want to give you a little bit of advice in a nice way. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if you just ask a little bit of a question and get them talking more, it might help.
exactly. And so I think there is a framework you can teach people, right? Or a general mindset that you can teach people.
Mm,
The thing that actually in the end is how I don't know if I use the motivated is the right word, because motivation is an artificial construct. It's just how disciplined are they and how much they want it. What's the desire in them to actually do this thing or have. So whenever I see people starting businesses, one of the things I say is, can you sell?
yeah. Yeah.
Because you can get the accountant, you can get the lawyer, you can get the blah blah, but where can you sell?
Yes, correct, correct. And on your point there, I mean, I made up my own acronym. In fact, I haven't coined it or patented it at all. And people, you feel free to use this, Marissa, but it's called GAF, giving up, and then you know what the F would stand for. But if they don't have a high level of GAF, then who are they
That's
going to
exactly
convince?
right.
No one.
That's exactly right. And so you've got to have enough drive and discipline to be able to want to learn how to do these things and then to actually do it, right? So often you'll see people with a great idea, maybe they've built a really great product or a really great service or something, and they think that, they'll just build it and some people will come, build it and they will come. And it's kind of like, sheepers, that's a hiding to nowhere.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. So I kind of go, yeah, but you've got to be able to sell it. And if nothing else, you've got to be able to sell the idea to someone that you're going to hire. Even if you can't do it, you've got to then sell that idea to somebody else if you want them to sell it for you, right? So you've got to have enough influence, ability to influence and ability to sell whatever it is you want to do. So I think I see a lot of people who are really good at what they do, but just can't sell, just can't.
Yeah, yeah. Just
And
literally
are the
done.
world's best kept secret, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, touche.
Yeah.
Back to your topic there around I mean, there's extrovert, introvert, and even some people have coined that term in the middle, like
Yeah.
omnivert, or whatever it may be. In your experience, and like this is, I've witnessed this personally, like when you're sort of sitting with a lot of introverts that might be around a lot of extroverts, they sort of, yeah, they literally embody everything about an introvert. But when you put introverts amongst a whole lot of introverts, they all become extroverts. So in my head, I'm going, are they just introverts around extroverts and they've got a high level of emotional intelligence? And then, but when you put them with the people that they actually want to hang out with and feel comfortable with, they're loud and comfortable and outspoken.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, or is that just
I
me?
have seen that. You are so right. It's so interesting because I'm an extrovert. Surprise.
Could hardly tell, yeah.
But interestingly, I remember reading something about, and this really stopped me in my tracks because one of my values is around, you know, fairness or not fairness maybe, but just seeing people, and understand people's value. And I read this thing about how extroverts have this thing of just talking over introverts, right? We just talk over them, or
Mm,
we ask a question and then don't wait for the answer. We just answer it for them, kind of thing, because they're thinking, they're more considered in their response. And
mm,
so I remember reading this thing that when you do that to an introvert, you've just basically told them they're of no value and you've just
mm,
shut them up and they'll just never speak again. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm sure I've done that so many times to introverts. And so now I'm really careful about being around introverts. And
mm,
I've actually seen, so in my family, I have a group of um, nieces, and they're a mix of extroverts and introverts. And I've seen the introvert just not talk when the extroverts are around. But when she's on her own and we have her just on her own, she's like a different kid. And I
mm,
think I think that that's a really great example of where extroverts dominate the conversation and we don't even know we're doing it, and it's really poor form uh,
mm,
because the introverts are really interesting. And that's what I say when I see introverts in their zone of genius or with other people that they like, exactly
mm,
what you say. They're
mm.
amazing and smart.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And just sort of witnessing and observing sometimes with introverts, they actually look, this is a wide sweeping generalization. It's just an anecdotal opinion, but I've seen it a lot. The introverts are actually they're intently, actively listening, but not necessarily with the thought process to speak or talk. I see a lot of extroverts would ask a question and then they start listening, but they're listening, thinking of what they're about to say. They're not actually in tune in the moment and actively listening. So they're sort of,
Exactly.
and whereas an introvert, I find that, sheesh, they make for much better listeners than extroverts.
Exactly. And they're much more considered in their responses, because they take the time to actually think
Mm,
about what it is you're saying. And if you just give them the space,
mm,
so I think extroverts want to fill the silence.
mm,
And if we just waited, gave
mm.
them 5 or 10 seconds to process what they want to say before they say it, and then not go, oh, it's been 5 seconds, I need to jump in here, then
That's also a term called ADHD too.
yeah. other thing I think about entrepreneurs, right? I think that if I had this theory that if you actually tested entrepreneurs, you'd find them that a lot of them would be on the spectrum somewhere, right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we just can't focus on one thing. And
Yeah.
so, bright, shiny new things, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Start 8 different tasks. I mean, those tasks do get completed at some point, but just not in that sort of cookie cutter traditional, right? Let's start this task, finish that. It's like, hang on. It's like, I'm sort of, I think I haven't actually had the formal test, but I know I'm definitely sort of on the brink of ADHD. However, like for example, in interviews, if I can interview someone for 2 hours, if I'm really into it and passionate about it, and I've got a high level of that gaff, I'm focused, I'm really locked in, and yeah, so just
yeah,
depends what the task is. But in the morning, for example, I boil the jug, then go have a shower, finish the shower, brush my teeth, then go finish the cup of tea, then sit down, open the email, do the ironing, get back to my desk. But so I'm just a shocker like that. But all those tasks that end up getting complete.
yeah. It's just not a beginning to end process, right? It's not,
No.
I'll begin and then I'll finish. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
I've been using the Pomodoro method.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah, which is the eat timer, 30-minute thing. And actually, because I think I have to gamify things to get things done. And so
Mm.
I do this 30-minute timer. I just have a little 30-minute thing on my phone and I just press it and then I just go, and then I go for 30 minutes. And man, that's a long time. Wow. I'm like, God, 30 minutes is so long. And so
Geez, if 30 minutes is a long time, you must think a flight over to Sydney from Auckland, a 3 hour plane ride is a very long time.
Well, it's not when you're watching a movie, right? But it is when you're
True.
thinking and doing something and focused and concentrating.
Yeah.
I find 30 minutes is quite a long time. Then you
Yep.
get into the flow of something because you're actually applying your brain and thinking and concentrating. And it's
Mm,
amazing how much I get done in that 30 minutes. It's
mm,
incredible.
mm.
So the technique is then the buzzer goes off, timer goes off, and then I have a 5-minute break, which is so then I'm allowed to go get a cup of tea or coffee or something, and then come back or do a couple of stretches.
What
Bit
made you
of,
say you're allowed? Like you're like, I'm giving myself permission to go pour a cup of tea.
I know it's so crazy,
Hey,
but it
are you
works.
are
It's
you
like
living in your own jail?
I know. Well, I did that to myself because I realized I wasn't, I was too easily going down rabbit holes of social media and um,
Mm,
email, marketing, that was being sent to me. And then I go, oh, that's a nice new release of some new shoes. Well, yay! I'll click on the shop, and then next minute I'm surfing their shop and going through all the different, and an
yeah,
hour will have
yeah,
gone.
yeah. And next minute you purchased.
I've purchased, and then I've gone to the next thing, and then and an hour goes by, and it's just been wasted. And so I had to apply some discipline to just getting stuff done,
Yeah,
Otherwise, I was just falling down rabbit holes too easily. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that retargeting. I mean, even when I used to work for a
Oh,
content marketing agency and we used to do it, I mean, sheesh, the power of it, especially when it's a product that you absolutely love and they just keep retargeting you, the cookies are following you and it's just in your face and you really want it, but you're trying to be disciplined, but then they
I
uh
find you.
they find you. They're ruthless and it works and yeah, they prey on you, but
Yeah.
hey, look, it drives revenue, so good on them.
Yeah. You just have to have the discipline. That's why I've started unsubscribing to things and I've tried to
Yeah,
just not be on Instagram and Facebook and all that because all the ads just follow you, right? They're just pretty much
yeah.
Facebook is all ads and Instagram all ads now. I mean, there's hardly anything you see from your mates on Facebook anymore.
Oh, 100%. So true. Yeah. And I have a little golden rule, little hack, like every time I go to pick up my phone. So instead of out of the subconscious habitual, right, we pick it up, but really with no intent or no key outcome in mind. But my brain now goes, what am I ultimately trying to achieve by grabbing my phone? Am I going to learn something new or do I actually practically need it to pay bills or whatever that may be? But rather than picking it up, going into that dark alley of just scrolling unnecessarily, that numbing stuff,
Yeah. It's
that can,
mindless, isn't it? It's
oh, yes.
mindless. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. It's shocking. Let's talk a little bit about, well, quite simply, the dollars in your account. You've become a millionaire. What has becoming a millionaire taught you the most, do you think?
Hmm. This is a really interesting one because actually I came from a mindset of I don't know that we were poor. I didn't know we were poor. We were poor, but because we were always well fed, my parents always made sure we didn't want for anything. But we never had labels or brands. Other kids would get the proper bikes, we'd get the copy version or whatever. We didn't get the rally bike. We got something called the low line. I don't even know what that was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, people got the rally bike and I got the low
Still,
line.
still, still got you to your destination, though.
But I still got a bike. And so here's the thing, I didn't really know we were poor. So I did come from this mindset of a little bit of kind of scarcity, but then weirdly, then really great indulgences, overspending on some things and then being really tight on other things. I've got this weird relationship with money. And I think that's really something I think it's really been useful for me to is really dive into my money mindset. Like, what do I believe about money? And what is it why do I make the decisions I make around what I spend on and what I save on? And I've come to this weird thing where I think if I buy something on sale, I'm allowed it. But if it's not on sale, it's a really big indulgence. And so when I got all this money, you'd think, oh, that would have changed. But actually, interestingly, my money mindset has been baked in for quite a long time. So it just doesn't change overnight. And so you get all
Mm,
this money and it makes no difference to what you believe about money. It's so
mm.
weird because the money is just a
Wow.
number in your bank account, right? It's not like I've got a room full of this big pile of cash that I can look at. I mean, I don't open the door
Well,
like
I mean, you
Scrooge
could have gone to
McDuck.
the bank and withdrawn it out if you just want that visual. You're like, oh, that's off the movie Richie
This
Rich.
is what this many millions look like. It's not like Scrooge McDuck and he opens it and he's swimming in this thing of gold coins, right? So
Was that a pretty crazy? Was that a surreal feeling though? Like literally just opening your app one day and just being like, oh wow, that's a
I
pretty
have to
large.
tell you that when the money got transferred into the bank account, I took a screenshot of it and I kept the
Oh
screenshot because
yeah,
I thought I'm never going to have this much money in the bank like this ever again, Um,
wow.
but it was a bit surreal and I think what it has done really from a take away the mindset thing about whether I spend money on myself or not. The thing it's really allowed me is freedom of choices, right? And I can do anything with my day. I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to do anything except for what I have created for myself. So if I
Mm,
make meetings or whatever, then it's all because I want to do it. So I
mm,
guess that there's that. The other thing that it's allowed me to do is really be a bit more considered about how I help people. So I've done a lot of angel investing, lost a lot of money on that. Um, and that's okay because every time an angel invested, I always understood that if I lost it, it wouldn't be material to my life.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
my parents like to go to Sky City, right? Because they're typical. They play the penny slots. They don't even do big time
Oh,
gambling or
classic.
anything. They don't even do blackjack. They're not playing any of the sexy gambling. They're just literally on the penny slot machines. I think
Are they
like
doing classic? What are they doing? $1 pushes?
no, even less. I think they're like 10 cent. I
Oh,
don't
jeez.
like I'm serious. It's like the penny slot things, right? I don't even know
Oh,
if it's
hilarious. They'll be there a
it's
while.
hilarious.
They're doing 10-cent ones.
I know. I think they just like the flashing light. I don't know what it is, right? But they've got really good mates there. I think it's a social activity, right? And they never lose a lot or win a lot because the amounts are so tiny. But why I bring that up is because my version of gambling is angel investing. So instead of going to Sky City, I angel invest because for me, that's a big gamble, right? And I've had a few do well. I've had more do less well. But that's what it's allowed me to do is to help other entrepreneurs. I can invest, I can then give time as well. So I mentor or coach, or I'll always do a meeting. People will reach out and say, oh, can I have a coffee meeting with you? I get so many of those requests, and I'd love to talk to you about this or that, you know, and it's not just from New Zealand, it's global. I'm doing a call from somebody in London about something in a couple of weeks, just because she's starting a business and would love to pick my brain. So I
Oh, I
think the
saw your
one,
LinkedIn content. Sorry to interrupt you. I saw your LinkedIn content on that piece where you have a very strict rule about time, the value exchange of being like, hey, look, I've given you a lot here out of free, but also there's another thing called mutually beneficial contractual agreement that
yeah,
also I need to be mindful of whether or not it's my time or energy, but you're very, very strict on that. Yeah, do you want to run us through that a little?
yeah. I am now because I get asked so much, and I typically would say yes, right? Typically, I would say yes for at least a one-off meeting. But what I find is that then people want more, and they think,
Mm,
"Oh, she's been so great," and then can you introduce me to this person, and can you do this for me, and can you do that for me? And
mm,
so I've started to get put a few boundaries in place now. And I'm saying things like, look, any more we can now we're in a value exchange, right? And now
mm,
we either are looking to do business or there needs to be something
mm,
that you do for me, right? And
mm,
as long as I'm upfront about that, most people are going, yeah, that's fair enough. You know, most people get it. And they go, yeah, fair enough,
mm,
your time's valuable. Thank you for what you've already spent with me. But I think what happens is a lot of us don't put those boundaries in place, and then we just keep doing this giving, 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 and then after a while you
mm,
get resentful, and then you will stop doing it, right? You stop
mm,
wanting to meet people. So I didn't want to get to
mm,
that space. I wanted to actually always feel generous and being able to do that for because generosity is one of my big values as well, personal values. So I wanted to
mm,
be able to keep doing it without feeling resentful. And so I've decided I'd always do one meeting free, and then after that, if anyone wants any more, then it becomes a value exchange. But I'm creating
mm,
really low cost offers so people can afford to do it, right? Because if I'm charging you, which my typical charge out rate for a coaching session is around $600, well, you know, not many people can do that, right? So I go, well,
mm,
I'm creating a membership offer, which is $40 a month, and you can join and be a member, and you'll get come into our webinar. We get a free webinar once a month. You can get access to resources and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing that now. I'm just creating that now because I wanted to be able to send people to something that they can still get a bit of me without having to pay $600
mm.
for a
Oh, I
session.
love that. I love how you term that. They can still get a bit of me. Sheesh, after all that, Marissa, I need to be quite mindful. I'll probably get an invoice from you after this. You'll be like, oh, I didn't let him know. Sneak a little email, be like, well, right, that's business, I guess. Can we talk a little bit about that angel investing, though? I find that quite fascinating. And I think for the audience out there, right, like we all have heard the term and things like that, but can we run through the process? Like, run us through a sort of average scenario of when you're going to meet all these different people to want to invest, what that looks like. Obviously, they run through a big pitch session and things like that, but I guess run through the journey of all of that when it comes to angel investing, and then what are some sort of key terms and the buyout or how that actually works
Mm,
from a return on investment point of view. You know, are
yeah.
you, for example, allowed to just bail out whenever you want, and is that on your terms? Or yeah, just run us through a
Yeah.
few facets of angel investing.
Yeah, I think what I learned early on is because I didn't know it and I invested a lot of money into my first angel investment, and I kind of learned the hard way. And I think the thing is that you really have to understand that it's money that you could easily lose, right? And so what people in New Zealand try and do is they go, look, I'll just spread it far and wide. So if I have 100 grand to invest, let me put 10 grand into 10 different entities, and one of them will be great, two might be okay, and the rest will probably fall over, right? So that's the kind of general wisdom that people have here.
Diversifying, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas there's another one which I kind of went into, which was I called commitment investing. So you really get behind one thing and you put the 100 grand into one thing, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
there's well, I think that's called conviction investing. You have conviction that this is the one, the horse to back, right?
yeah.
And so I just
Yeah,
think,
you're going on a win bet, not a place bet, just to use
yeah,
your
yeah,
analogy. Yeah.
all
You're
in on
going on
one.
the nose on the win. You're
Clean
not
on the
doing
nose,
yeah.
first place, not
You're
even a
not
place. Yeah,
you're not
just
doing
first
top
place.
not
Yeah,
doing top four. I love it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it is like gambling, you know, and so I think you just have to know your risk appetite and what you can afford to lose. And that's why there's these funds that do it, right? So you've got these investment funds that will do it for you. And they, I guess, in that situation, you're a little bit more, it's a little bit less interesting because you kind of don't have any direct contact with the founders. That sort of the fund does all the due diligence, does all the interaction, that kind of thing. So you can invest in startups through funds, or you can go direct and be part of a shareholding group. And so I've done mostly direct through sometimes through nominee companies who, if you're a small shareholder, they roll up these smaller shareholders into a nominee company because they don't want to have like 100 shareholders on their cap table. So I've done some through a nominee thing and some direct myself. And the thing about investing in startups is you really got to understand the problem that the founder is solving. You've really got to believe in the founder. You've got to believe they're coachable. You've got to believe that they'll take advice, that the idea is sound, that they have a clear pathway to growth or to some kind of liquidity event. Are they going to exit? Are they going to just grow and grow and grow and then get bought out by somebody else? Like, what is the strategy? What is the story? And then the thing about it is you might go, oh, I'll put in 100 grand, but then what you don't realize in 100 grand at, a valuation of say 1 million is 10%, right? But then they go, oh no, our value's doubled now, right? So we're now worth 2 million and we need to raise another 100 grand. So to keep your stake at 10%, you have to put another 100 grand in, right?
Interesting.
Otherwise you keep getting diluted because the valuation grows,
Right.
but your stake hasn't grown.
Can there be a term and a clause to stipulate, hey, look, I just want to keep the 10% at that initial start
Yes,
thing?
yes, but
See
most
the growth.
founders, yeah,
They're not.
but no, most founders won't. I mean, they don't. If you put that in and they're desperate, they might do it. But the problem with that is that it becomes problematic for the business because later people who maybe are bigger founders will go, well, that's going to turn us off, right? Because this person's stake is always preserved at this thing. And so if they get good advice, it's something that you probably, or I mean, it's quite good for the initial investor if you can hold on to that. So what I didn't realize is that you had to do this follow-on investment, right? So you don't just do the 100K and you're done, wash your hands and go, yeah, that's it. I've got 10% of this company, right? Oh, yay. But, as the thing grows, so does the capital requirements, and then it dilutes your shareholding because other people come in with more money and the thing gets worth more thing. But it doesn't mean to say that your 100 grand doesn't grow in value. Obviously, your shareholding
Yeah, right.
drops. So maybe your 10% is only worth 1% now, but the thing is worth 100 million. So you'd rather have 1% of 100 million than 10% of 1 million, right?
Sure.
So,
So hypothetically, if you were to invest 100 grand when it was valued at 1 million in that company, let's just say it grows to a $5 million company in 3 years,
yeah.
do you have to put in at the 100 times 5, they would require that
Well,
amount?
if every time they capital raise, they will tell you what the pre-money valuation is. So if the pre-money valuation was, look, we went from a $1 million value to now we're worth, we think, 5 million. And so we are looking to raise another, I don't know, say it's 1 million, whatever, because it wouldn't be another 100,000. They'd go, oh, we're going to go to US now. We want to raise $1 million.
Right.
If you want to be part of that, then, put in if you want to stay at the same 10%, you have to go to what's 10% of another million, right?
Right.
Or 5 million, or 5 million.
Jeez.
So that's
And if you say
500,000.
no, if you say no,
Yeah.
do they just pay you out and say see you later?
No, you just stay in there at the lower level because what happens is post money,
Oh,
once they
right.
get the money in, they're now worth 6 million, and your 100,000 is worth whatever 100,000 of 6 million, right? So whatever they've put in, right? So then your 100,000 now not 10% of 1 million, it's now 100,000 is whatever percentage of 6 million.
Gotcha. Yep. Yep.
Post-money
Yep.
valuation. So,
Ah.
so you get diluted all the way through as the company grows if you don't keep following on. And that's what I mean, the follow-on investment. You don't have to
Mm,
follow on at the same amount at the same percentage. You might just put in, say, yeah, I've put in 100,000, maybe I put another 50 in. So
mm,
it doesn't get me to stay at my 10%, but it just keeps me my percentage, it might increase it a little bit, or it
mm.
stops it from being diluted so much. So you do,
Right.
and you can put clauses into agreements that you don't get diluted, right? And that depends on how desperate the founder is and the business is for the money. They might go, okay, we'll take this, and then they're non-dilutive rights.
Mm.
And you
Can
see,
you
this
can you
is
just run us through sort of layman's terminology of when you mean diluted?
so I was going to tell you about the Facebook movie. Did you ever watch the Facebook movie? What was it called? That
Oh,
had
so the social so
social.
social something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something, the one that,
yeah,
and it had the twins in it, right? It had the
yeah,
twins,
yeah.
the blonde twins. So Mark Zuckerberg had all these co-founders. He had this co-founder, right? And I think the twins were one of them, and then there was the other guy that Justin Timberlake played. I can't remember what his name was, but anyway, he had these co-founders, and they all had a similar shareholding. And then what happened was Mark Zuckerberg basically got I can't remember how much the investment was, but it was massive, right? And he organized it, so he orchestrated it so that his majority share, his share was protected, but he diluted out all the others. So, say the company started at 1,000 shares
Mm,
and he had 300, and somebody had 333, somebody had 300. I think he had the majority actually. I think he had over 50 or whatever it was, and they had 20 and 20 or something like that, right? So it was
right.
60%. So he had 600 shares and they had 20 shares and off 400, 200 and 200 to make 1,000 shares. Anyway, what he did was he created a whole new share pool. So those 1,000 shares went to say 10,000 shares. He
Mm,
made his 600 go up to, because he had the majority and he could vote it. So
mm,
he made his ones 6,000 shares, but they stayed at 200.
mm,
So 200 shares of 10,000 is not worth much at all.
mm.
And then,
Correct.
so you've been diluted.
Ah,
Okay, so the 1,000 share company became a 10,000 share company, and your
he's
share,
got like 90. He's got like 90% of it.
yeah, because
Right.
he diluted them. So your
Gotcha.
200 shares, the two different other guys who had like minor shareholdings, they're 200 shares of 10,000 now, right?
Mm, mm,
Whereas it
mm.
was 200 shares of 1,000. So that's
Ah,
a
yeah.
big difference, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And so what happened is you got diluted out, and then they just bought their shares out at that
Right.
price.
Right. Right. Sheesh. Yeah.
And that's
It
what
was
he
called,
did.
so it was called the social network.
The
Yep.
social network. So if you ever watch it, that's what they did to them. That's what he did to
Ah,
them
right. Right.
to
Sheesh.
get them out.
Sheesh. So yeah. So that's all fascinating. The same your investing stuff. So you come in obviously with your lawyers and are you sort of also proposing to them as well with the terms that you'd ideally like, or is it more really they dictate, they
Typically, they
govern?
would have a share, like a kind of a what do you call it? An agreement, a shareholders agreement with
Right.
terms, and depending on how much you're bringing to the table, like for instance, you could ask for a seat on the board if you're bringing a significant amount, and that kind of thing. But nobody likes a messy cap table, and they typically like people all on the same terms. Because once you start carving different terms out for different investors, so you can get class of shares. You can have an A class of shares, which gives more rights, and you have a
Mm.
B class of shares, which you have less rights, which means sometimes if you have a B class of shares, no voting rights. Whereas if
Ah.
A class of shares, you're included and you have voting rights. So
Ah.
there's all
You
sorts of
literally have a seat at the table.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you really got to
Awesome.
understand what you're investing in and what kind of shares you'll be buying, or, if you are, and sometimes what happens is, say or a company's in distress or is being sold cheap and needs a lot of money, and some um, opportunist funds will come in and go, oh, this is a good business. They're just running out of cash, right? And so they'll
Mm,
just come in and they'll go, okay, well, all your current shareholders, we're going to buy them all out. They're going to become B class shares because you were A class shares. But in exchange for us coming in and bailing the company out, we're going to have all A class shares. So all the current shareholders have to agree to this new arrangement. You're going to be you basically subordinated down to the B class shares. And
Right.
if you want to get something out of your money, out of the organization, and have some hope that the thing will survive, most people will sign it,
There's
right?
a term that comes to mind here, Marissa. Yeah, money talks.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
it's
right, well, I'm
yeah,
coming in to bail you guys out. This is on our terms. Yeah.
yeah, exactly right, exactly right. So angel investing is not for the faint-hearted, and you've really got to learn about it, which I didn't know, and I learned along the journey, right? But
Yeah.
there are courses you can do that will teach you all of this. Yeah.
Very good. Have you had more wins than losses?
No, no, way more losses than wins.
Very
Which is the
good.
norm, which is the norm. I've had some really
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah.
And I have had some that's still going. So I don't, and there's one particular in Dunedin, which I reckon is going to be a goodie. But that is, it typically takes, I think,
You
uh,
found a unicorn in Dunedin, have you?
well, I think they're really smart. They're really, that they're not wasteful in the way they spend money, but they spend money smartly. And they've had really good debt structuring and all of that. So they're really clever. So anyway, but my thing is that when you angel invest, it's not a quick turnaround. People think, oh, in 5 years they'll exit and I'll get a big payout. Well, that's not the norm. Typically, I mean, PE funds try and do that, right? Private equity go in, buy something, and then try and squeeze out what they can, all the costs that they can, and then resell it to somebody else and get a
Right.
big uplift, right? But
Right.
they try and do that in a 5 year window, right? Whereas I think when you do an angel investment from startups, it's really a 5 to 10 year journey before you
Right.
see any
Right.
returns. Yeah.
Right. And when we're talking about how one values a company, is that quite simply, is it EBITDA times three? I mean, how, for example, did your recruitment firm sell for that figure? Were they like, well, obviously you're looking at the revenue that they're doing on a financial year, and then is that the sort of the general golden rule? Is
Yeah.
it by three to value a company or not so much, or how?
It depends on the business, right? So, SaaS companies, which it won't be the case now, but software as a service companies and all these digital companies, they got valued on their revenue, not their EBIT, right? So you didn't have to make money to do well to sell, right? So, and they were getting multiples of 10, 15, 20 on their revenue, not even on their EBIT, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
companies were selling for hundreds of millions, on SaaS businesses because they had this recurring revenue model, right?
Right.
So it depends on the business. Now, if you are, the reason why we did well was because what we call a strategic acquisition for the buyer. So the buyer um, was in recruitment, and we were a strategic acquisition because we kind of added to something that they were already in recruitment, but they weren't in the areas we were in. We gave them instant access. They didn't have to build up a white collar recruiting company, because they were primarily blue collar and trades. So we were what we'd call a strategic acquisition. And
Mm,
so if you're a strategic acquisition, and that's where you want to be to get the higher multiples, because you add more than just, the additional EBIT. You add
ah,
opportunity to grow the overall business.
right.
So
Oh,
I
so
don't know.
they were a competitor to you initially.
Yeah, yeah,
So they did a strategic
they
buy
were in
because you,
recruitment, but they
right,
weren't in the same areas of recruitment we were in.
right,
And
right,
so,
right. How many
so
staff did
we,
you have in the end? How many staff total?
oh, we had about 100 staff. I think we were doing about something
Jeez.
around the 50, 60 million turnover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Unreal. That's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it was good times.
It was good times. I love it. Yeah, I had Connor on. He's co-founder of Tracksuit. They just got their Series B funding.
Oh, they're amazing. Oh my God.
40 million NZD. And then it was funny. It's funny how you mentioned that about the SaaS valuation because a journalist put up online that their value is 400 million, right? And Connor just turned around the interview. He's like, that's absolute BS. Absolutely loved his transparency and honesty there. But yeah, the SaaS model's fundamentally different to a lot of other companies, isn't it?
Yeah, it is totally.
Yeah, good times. I mean, yeah, because Madison. Oh, sorry, you were going to say something.
I was just thinking if anyone is looking to exit a business or to start a business, really thinking, which we never really thought this from the beginning when we started, because we were so small, we didn't know we were going to be so big, right? But if you do start a business and then it does get traction and it starts to grow, there is that saying, have a, begin with the end in mind. You might also think, what value could I bake into the business for a potential acquirer? You know,
Mm, mm,
who would I be attractive to as an acquisition? Who would I add value to? And maybe just think about that as well as you grow, and thinking about what new product or service should we develop? Well, really thinking about, well, if the natural buyer is a competitor or is a supplier to us or something, what would they want us to do? Just thinking a little bit more strategically about your growth plans if you ever want to exit.
oh, that's very fascinating. Yeah, I was just going to, you alluded to it a little bit there around when you're talking about baking value into your already existing organization. So things like starting a new product or service, innovating. What are some other ways one can go about baking value into an organization? Is it, for example, like hiring new candidates that are, he might be the hottest CMO or the CEO? Is that sort of that
Yeah.
value of a human capital which would bake value, or
Yeah.
what other ways could you put
I
value
think
into business?
when I go into companies, what's really fascinating for me is how often they overlook some of the things that they're doing because they do them so well and it comes quite easily for them. And so um, they don't, I don't know, maybe they don't recognize the inherent value of that because it's something they do all the time. So they treat it not with contempt, but it's just something we do, or we do that really well. But I say there's a reason why you do it really well, and it's because you've somehow designed some sort of system or process or way of doing it that's better, faster, something than, say, your competitor. And
Mm, mm,
if you just could look at that and say, what is it that we do really well here? Could we create some IP around that,
mm,
give it a name or name it or um, trademark it or whatever it is, right? And
mm,
just because then it creates more value on your balance sheet.
mm,
If it's a thing that you've actually trademarked and said, or a product that I know that sometimes people come up with a solution to a problem that they've had in their business and they've created a widget or they've created a new process or something and nobody else knows about it outside
mm,
of their industry or whatever, but they've just done it to fix their own problem. And then often
mm.
that becomes the thing that they can then sell to their competitor. You know what I mean? Like it's like
100%. Yeah.
it's
So is that when you patent something? Yeah. So trademarking and patenting. Yeah. Run us through sort of like because there's a lot of legality side to that, isn't it? So,
yeah. Yeah,
so no one can.
trademarking is not anything it's not the same as a patent. A patent obviously is if you've built something that's unique and is different and you can prove that, you can patent it, right? It's a little bit more of a complicated process than just trademarking something. Trademark is really saying, and we did this with Madison. I mean, we're a recruitment service. There's lots of recruitment companies, but we created this thing called the Madison Way. And I just called it the Madison Way, and then we just trademarked it because we thought it gave it some kind of, I don't know, kudos maybe that there was something about the way we did things. And
Yeah.
actually there was something about the way we did things that people really loved, and it was hard to speak about it in a tangible sense. But
Mm,
by using the Madison Way, every time we did something, we said, oh, we just do that. That's the Madison Way, and if internally, if people, didn't perhaps follow the way we did things, we would say that's not the Madison way. You kind of left your client hanging, or you didn't go back to them on time. They didn't know what was going on. That's just not the way that we do things around here. It's not the Madison way. So we just created this kind of thing. And look, I don't. You can't. Could you say did it add value to the business? Not in a true sense of, we could put it on a balance sheet and give it a value. But I think what it did was it created a culture in a company that meant that we really performed well in the business. People really understood what that was, and our company culture
mm,
was really tight. And that
mm,
obviously generated into performance, and then performance generated profit, right? So we were
Mm,
just better at what we did. So I think if you can think about what are you doing in your business that's amazing and that you just take for granted, and maybe identify it and name it, or what have you invented?
mm,
You solved something for your business because nobody was doing it. Could you put that on the balance sheet as this thing that you've created, you know? Um,
mm.
and so,
Did you
yeah, I think there is
sort of
something.
path? Oh, sorry to interrupt you there, but did you path that way for recruitment firms? Did they all start following that sort of culture aspect? So you started this Madison way. That sounded like it was your USP, right? And then, yeah, I mean, what was that moment you knew that you were like, oh, this is actually going to be more than just another recruitment firm? And then did people sort of, did you have a trickle-on effect in the industry?
Yeah, well, when we first started, I think the recruitment industry was known as being very transactional and quite a hard place to work for people. So when we first started, Wynnis and I did all the selling because we were natural salespeople, I guess you would say, and we didn't mind doing it. And so a lot of the consultants that came to work for us just liked doing the recruitment bit. They didn't want to do the selling bit, right? So we would do the selling bit, and then all they had to do was recruit. So we were attracted from that point of view to start with. And then as we grew, we couldn't keep doing that, obviously. So it couldn't just be Wynnis and I selling for the whole company. So then we did have to bring people in that were able to do the full thing. But what I think, and back then, company culture was not really a big thing. You know, we're talking about the early noughties, and no one really talked about company culture. So we had a person on staff. She was very much about this sort of stuff, and she really spearheaded, and then the senior leadership team did as well. And we were probably, I would say, about 5 years old when we got serious about it. And I think that really underpinned our success because we we became a place that people wanted to work. So we never had to go out and find good people. A players were ringing us because they wanted to come and work for us. And when you
Mm,
have A players come and wanting to come work for you, of course they perform, and they just are so much, they're so additive to your organization. So we always talk about hiring A players, right? So yeah, so we had people who matched our values, highly competent and capable, delivering great return on investment.
yeah, fantastic. And speaking of A players, how are you identifying especially in an interview process? I mean, what are we talking these days? It's max 3 interviews, right? And in 3 interviews, you guys have to make and I'm talking about the owners of a company, you've got to make a pretty serious decision on a candidate.
Yeah.
But what are the things that you're really, well, I mean, just like one trait that you're like, they have to have that, like when you're hiring someone, which is obviously going to hopefully be an A player.
Yeah. Oh, if there was one thing, gosh, it's hard because I
Must be
think
like
one
a
of
gut
the
feeling
main
or something.
things is coachability, right? Coachability and alignment to your values in your business. So, do they fit from a culture perspective? And if we do a four grid thing, and one axis was culture fit and one was competency, and so we can map them in the four grid thing, and you can say, well, if they fit your culture and they're highly competent, they're A players. If they
Mm,
fit your culture but they're not highly competent, they're B players because they can be coached up with training, and they'll
mm,
become an A player because they fit your culture. As long as they get the competencies that you need and they've got the smarts to get there, they'll become A players.
mm,
Where you get the problematic people is that they're highly competent, but they don't fit your values of your company. And they're usually the troublemakers. They're the ones you think, if only they could just get on with the job, they're really good at what they do when they focus, but they're so disruptive, because they're always, doing the back chat, they're always doing the shit stirring and all that, right?
the naughty kid in the playground,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the one that just keeps, causing trouble because they just don't fit. And but they're actually good if they focus. And then the bottom one is not values fit and not good at the job, and they're just like showing the door.
See
They're
you
the C's.
later.
See ya. Yeah. So really it's understanding, do they fit my culture, but also can they do the job? And if they can't do the job, would they be coachable? So your A players are really the ones that are sitting in the top right-hand corner, right? Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. And we're looking at, look, I'm mindful of time, so I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but we'll just we'll wrap this up. But with So what are you ultimately looking for? Like obviously there's some big no-nos in an interview just for the generation out there that are going through a range of interviews. What are your ultimate red flags like for people should be like just do not do that in an interview?
Uh, I guess if I think about no-nos, it's really not being present in the conversation. Be really, what's the word for it? Being engaged. Um, and, we're looking for smarts, we're looking for people with smarts and confidence. And I've got an amazing EA, right? I've got two EAs. I've got one digital marketing manager, and I've got another. She does all my social media, organic social media marketing, and all my other admin stuff. I have to tell you something about this, and this is really interesting because they're different ages. One's in their 30s, and I discovered my assistant currently, she's 19. So I didn't know
Wow.
how old she was. I knew she was at university or finishing university. So in my mind, I thought she was like 21 or 22 or something like that, right? Anyway, and what I love is that when I interviewed her, and it was on Zoom because she lives miles away, uh, she was just really confident. She was collected. She was calm. She was prepared. She was thoughtful in her answers. She was considered. And I think there's something about that confidence that you have. Not being over, she was not overconfident or arrogant or cocky, but she was just calm and she was thoughtful. And that for me gave me a sense of assurance because I'm looking for somebody who can manage themselves and all of this stuff, right? And as it
Mm.
turns out, she's amazing. So I will, I'm, because I'm an entrepreneur, you can imagine the kind of instruction I give her, right? It's like if you had a coloring book or a blank piece of paper, and I'm drawing red scribbles in a circle, and she's got to fill in the blanks and color it all in, right? Anyway, that's what I do. My instructions are like drops of little lines all over the place on a blank piece of paper, and I'm just going,
Yeah.
and she's trying to join all the dots. Anyway, I'll say something to her, and then like half an hour later, she's done it. I haven't even given her a full proper instruction, but she's understood context, she's understood what I do, she knows how I think, she knows what I mean, she's proactive, and she just produces
Wow.
the thing.
And she's 19.
And she's not, and so I actually had to ask her, I said to her, Hannah, because I was blown away, right? I was blown away. And I actually said to her, Hannah, you're amazing, blah, blah. I don't even give you proper instructions. I don't even fill in the colors for you. I'm just telling you stuff, dribs and drabs. And then you produce the thing and it's almost perfect. So I actually said to her, how
Oh,
old?
quick caveat. Hang on, and look, not to take any value
No.
away from it. Is she using ChatGPT or AI?
Oh, she's doing both. She's doing both. She uses the whole thing
She
because
put,
I'm
she
talking.
put, she puts in all your sort of little like what we could call a flow diagram, and then she just
Yeah.
chucks it in chat, and then she comes back to you, and then she takes the kudos. She's like, yeah, I'm really good.
No, no, but she also goes through it and she doesn't lie about it. She doesn't not tell me that she's done that. But the fact that she's known how to do it, right?
Yes, yeah,
And
it's an intuition thing. Yeah,
yeah, but and also knowing how I think and what works and what doesn't work for me. And then
yeah.
so she's almost got it perfect. Like
Sounds
not
like a weapon. Weapon. Yeah,
she
that's what
is.
you want. That's what you
And
want
that's why
to
I asked her, I said, how old are you, Hannah? Because I was like so blown away. She went, oh, I'm 19. I almost fell off my chair. I went, what?
hire.
What? Anyway, just everything about her self-possession, her poise, all of that. I mean, and she's got the confidence now to push back on not she's never argumentative, but I started saying to her, look, because you live far away, we've got a set number of hours. If it's raining, whatever, you just do what you need to do, right? If you need to go home early or you want, so she does. Because sometimes she would go, oh, she doesn't mean it, I won't do it. But that last week we had this really bad rain day, and she actually texted me because she was meant to come into the office, and she said, oh, look, I'm driving, but it's so dangerous. I don't think I can come. And so can I just not come in and work from home today? And I was like, good on you, babe. I mean, yeah. At
Yeah,
19, I would never have done that. I would go, oh no, I'll solder in because, my boss won't like it. And, I just wouldn't have had the confidence to do that, right? I just thought she was great. I was like, oh, good on you, chick.
yeah, yeah. She says, yeah, we want to hire more Hannahs.
Yeah. We want people who just have the confidence to do it. And maybe I've created the conditions for it, but
Yeah.
but it still is up to her to lean into it.
So good. Such good insights there. Hey, Marisa Fong, that's all we've got time for today. We could talk for 4 hours.
Easily.
We could do a full Joe Rogan-esque podcast. That's why I admire that guy's interview. I mean, he can keep you engaged as a listener for 4 hours, mind you. He's done over 2,000 interviews, so he's honed his art. But nonetheless, it's not about Joe, it's about Marisa Fong. Thank you so much for coming on the Luke Farr show to motivate, educate, and inspire our next generation of leaders. And you've certainly done that. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Luke. Enjoyed being here.
I'll just hit stop record.